if we win Ohio and if we win Florida, then everybody agrees, every one of these guys, that it's pretty much over.
There's no way I would team up with Donald Trump. No way. Forget it. I'm going to be the nominee because we're going to win Ohio.
Quite frankly, I think a lot of people are going to be embarrassed tonight and are going to want refunds from the money they spent on these polls because we're going to win Florida.
We are seeing millions of supporters who had been supporting Marco Rubio, who had been supporting John Kasich, who are uniting behind us.
There are the sights and sounds from the campaign trail today. Let's bring in our expanded panel here in New York. Fox News senior political analyst Brit Hume, Steve Hayes, senior writer for the Weekly Standard, Juan Williams, columnist with The Hill, and in Washington, Charles Hurt, political columnist for the Washington Times, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. Okay, we have the first wave of exit polls. We've been kind of getting into it. Brit, what do you see?
Well, there's nothing in the trends of these exit polls that we see that would lead us to believe that there's going to be some staggering upset tonight. And on the issues, there's a lot of consistency across these states of people's feelings on the issues. So we can probably surmise tonight that Donald Trump is going to do well. How well remains to be seen. We can suggest that Ted Cruz has the chance here of a good night, which is what all the polls leading up to tonight have suggested. John Kasich looks like he, may survive this night. Doesn't look as good for Marco Rubio based on what the exit polls are suggesting about the way people feel about the issues. But we will know, Brett, I think tonight, when all is said and done, a lot more about this sort of overarching question now of whether Trump can make it to the convention with enough delegates to be nominated on the first ballot, or whether he will fall short of that, and who then might the convention turn to, if not he, for the nomination. And that, of course, is a question that people have been asking for a long time. We'll know a lot. We'll be closer to the answer to that tonight.
Yeah, Steve, if Marco Rubio doesn't win Florida, he's saying today that he's going on no matter what to Utah tomorrow, but something tells me that the path is tough to sell.
Yeah, I think it would be very tough to sell. I mean, if you listen to the things that he said before, he said the nominee of the party will have won Florida. He said a number of things that I think would be thrown back in his face. There's some question as to what happens with his delegates that he's already won if he were to not continue in the race. I think depending on how that question is answered might determine whether he suspends, whether he actually gets out. But I do think, to Brit's point about whether this is going to the convention or whether Trump gets 1237. There are some interesting numbers inside of this on the head-to-head races. If you believe that after this we're likely to be looking at effectively a two-man race between Ted Cruz and Donald Trump, you look at Missouri, Cruz beats Trump head-to-head 50-41. North Carolina, Cruz beats Trump 50-43. Ohio, Trump beats Cruz 46-38. So if you're the Cruz campaign and you want to get this to a two-man race, that's your argument. You say, we're beating him in some places head-to-head.
But Charles Krauthammer, if you're the Cruz campaign, you also need a Kasich win to stop the momentum of Donald Trump in Ohio.
Absolutely, and I think whether Kasich stays in or not, I think it's not going to affect the Cruz campaign effectively. After tonight, it looks as if Trump, Cruz are the two plausible candidates to come out of the convention. Maybe not arrive with a majority. If they have pluralities, it'll be large ones. And it would be hard to reach down to a Kasich or Rubio or anybody outside the party at that point. So even without a one-on-one, with Kasich, let's say he stays in, let's say he does well and Rubio doesn't, he will take a few of the delegates away from Trump. In that sense, he helps Cruz. To me, of course, the lead indicator here was the result in the North Mariana Islands. I think, the way that goes, you really get a sense of which. And I ask myself, what's happening in the South Mariana Islands? And do we even own them? I suspect they're probably Japanese. But that, to me, was one of the leading indicators.
That's good. Let's play, Juan, this ad that is now running and Donald Trump's response to it. It is an ad by this group, this super PAC that is essentially the Never Trump group.
Bimbo, dog. Fat pig. Real quotes from Donald Trump about women.
Women. You have to treat them like
This is how Donald Trump talks about our mothers, our sisters, our daughters.
I have seen it, and it was the Romney deal, you know, who ran one of the worst races in the history of presidential politics. It's a lot of sour grapes. Women, if you look at the women's polling, leaving the booth, women, I'm leading by a lot.
And if you look at the exit polls, Juan, for example, in Florida, North Carolina, not in Illinois, but Missouri, he's doing pretty well with women.
He does better with men, but he's still doing sufficiently well with women. He's not, it doesn't look like a huge gap. There is a gap, but it's not huge in these states, at least according to the exit polls that we're seeing so far. This is about a $35 million ad buy, Brett. So a big buy by the anti-Trump forces. Some call them establishment Republican forces. I think it's clearly aimed at late deciders. The question was, if you look at the past few primary caucuses, late deciders were getting split up. Trump had the early vote, especially people who had voted absentee. Was that going to make a difference tonight, specifically, I think, in the state of Florida? And what we can see so far from the exit polls is that hasn't played out.
Charlie Hurd, you know, I laid out the delegate math, and there is a chance that these other candidates prevent Trump from getting to 1237, the necessary delegates needed to clinch. It's an uphill battle to get 65% of the delegates remaining if he loses Ohio.
But it is easier going forward than it was previously, just because of the winner-take-all terms of so many of the big states going forward. But, you know, that said, you know, obviously, you know, Marco Rubio can stay in the race if he loses Florida after this, if he wants to. There's no path to him getting the 1237 that he needs, and it would be difficult for Kasich or Cruz. So their only hope, obviously, is to deny Trump the clean victory there. But then they set up the problem that we've all been talking about for weeks now. I was really interested in that ad as well. It's a brutal ad, and it's so effective. I couldn't believe that Republicans had actually put it together. But I think that one thing that is important to remember, and Juan noted on this, that Donald Trump is not doing. He's obviously performing much better among men than he is among women. But his gap with women is smaller than the gap that Hillary has with men. And I think that that's an important thing to probably keep in mind. And this is with this onslaught of negative ads hitting Trump that Hillary isn't having to buffet right now.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see as it develops tonight.